It's back to school time, but it's also back to skirmish time. That's my wife right there. And today we're going to talk about my favorite Blitz deck. It's Blaze. Skirmish season starts this weekend, and I have been very active in the Blaze Discord. I'm a big Blitz fan, as you probably know, and there's a lot of people asking questions about Blaze, talking about how to play the deck, where does it fall as far as like the positions, is it well positioned into this meta? So I figured let's take it back old school, and I will give you a good old-fashioned paper deck tech of my favorite hero in this format, and that is Blaze Firemind. I will explain everything I've learned after over 700 games with this singular deck, and yes, I have the data to prove it. All right, here's the proof, right? I got the deck list here. Of course, we're going to talk about all that here in a bit, but stats, results, that's the button. Results is the button. It has to think about it. We've played 723 games on this deck, and we have a 75% win rate across the board, with a 68% win rate going first and a 79% win rate going second. The deck does prefer to go second, but there are key matchups that you would like to go first, that you actively choose to go first. I'm not going to cover those because it would just this video will balloon into huge lengths. In fact, if you want that information, go check out the guide that is down below, because I talked for like 3 hours about this deck and about matchups and things like that. But if you're curious as to where the deck stands, this is the deck that I've been playing since before Zen. Like this is the deck. I can go all the way back. This is before they banned, look at this. This is before they banned Flare and Wildfire. This is the same exact deck list I've been playing since then, and the deck has gone through iteration after. It's funny because this list right here is like basically what I was doing, iteration after iteration after iteration after iteration, and now here we are. Okay, and the deck is in a fantastic spot even with losing the boots. But result wise, if you're curious, here are the, I'll just try to zoom in for you. Here are the, oh, that won't let me. All right, fine. Here are the matchups. The only losing matchups that we currently have are Syndra. I've only faced 2 Syndras with this list, and I lost both those games. One Enigma that is out there lurking, and then we have a even win rate into Lexi, and I think we have a negative win rate into one of the Prisms. Where's Prism? Yeah, into the second Prism, Prism 2. We have a negative win rate into Prism 2. Everything else is either even or positive, and some in which case are, you know, very positive, like I don't know, like Azalea, and you get the picture, right? So we've put a lot of work into this list, and we've taken it a long way. So starting from the top, Blaze is a wizard hero, young, 17 health, 4 intellect. Whenever you opt, put energy counters on her equal to the number of cards that you look at via the opt, and then you can remove at instant speed X counters from her. Banish a wizard non-attack action card from your hand that deals arcane, specifically deals arcane, equal to X, and then you can play it as though it were an instant on that turn, and that is what she's gonna be doing. She is quite good. I'm going to assume, after I've read that now, that you know about this hero and you just want to know about this deck list, so I'll explain it very quickly. Waning Moon is the weapon of choice because it deals 3 damage for 2 resources on your opponent's turn. The equipment suite is as the equipment suite has been, except for one key piece, and we'll talk about that. Talismanic Lens still remains the go-to headpiece. It is incredible. It opts 2 on the board, and we'll talk about why this is so important, opting on the board, here in just a moment. Metacarpus node in the arm slot is always just the one you'd run. You just run this because it's Arcane Barrier 1. That's key right now because we did lose Stormstrider, so we don't have AB2 on the board immediately. We have AB1 with Metacarpus node, plus it gives you +2 value on your key turns because you're going to activate it hopefully twice. Old Knocker is now in place of the Spellfire Cloak. Spellfire Cloak was good. It was AB1. Some people are still running it, but I'll show you what I run instead. Instead, Old Knocker is the chest piece of choice, and you just run it out there and you get a free resources on your turn, on your opponent's turn. All you have to do is tap your hero, and that doesn't matter at all because we don't care about tapping. But what we do also like is that this blocks 1. And yes, you can block with this and then activate it after damage is done. So once the damage step has completed, you can activate this, tap your hero, and then gain the resource. So this is strictly better. I mean, minus AB. It's strictly better than Spellfire Cloak, in my opinion. And this is the piece that keeps Blaze alive. Seeker's Leggings. Seeker's Leggings is instant pay 1, destroy it, and then prevent the next 1 damage that you would be dealt that turn. But key point, opt 1. Okay, so what does this piece allow us to do? It allows us, with these 2 pieces on the board, to have 3 opt counters at any point that can go on to Blaze. So you could do this on turn 0, and you can opt 3, setting up your turn 1, which is quite good, by the way, opting 3, just on the board alone. You don't have to draw Cinderings, you don't have to draw, anything that opts alongside of it. Just these pieces on the board allow you to opt 3. And then you can throw a myriad of 3 power, if you even call it that, 3 damage dealing spells. There's a ton of them in this deck. This deck is even more tailor-made to a 3 base, like power, if you will, spell range than other versions of Blaze. And I think this version has been insulated from losing Stormstriders. I mean, Stormstriders is a better piece of equipment than this one, but the deck is not dead by any stretch of the imaginations because this card exists. So this card almost single-handedly allows Blaze to keep doing her thing at such a rapid pace. As far as sideboard pieces, we have Alluvian Constellus. This is what you run into wizard matchups. This is what you run into anyone that wants to deal arcane damage in chunks bigger than 1. Talismanic Lens is always on the board. Or sorry, not Talismanic Lens. Metacarpus Node, I should say, is always on the board. So we have access to, the arcane barrier there, but anything that's doing like chunks and in the mirror or wizards, you run Alluvian Constellus, you get the value from it. Balance of Justice, I will mention this. It used to be in the list specifically for the KO matchup, but I think the KO matchup, if played correctly from the Blaze side, is close enough that you no longer need to swap Balance of Justice out. And because Stormstriders has been removed, it is even more important that Talismanic Lens lives on the board for this deck to really hit its numbers. So we don't really play this card anymore. I recently cut it and I included an extra popper. So consider this card a flex slot for your meta. Whatever you can put in to target your local meta, this is the slot for it. Okay, now let's talk through the deck. We'll start here. I'll just cut this deck in half. There we go. We'll start here with the cards that either double as like damage dealing spells or opt, or just pure opt. And I'll give you the use cases for all of them, but very quickly so that you can get in and get out. Aether Spindle Reds and Aether Spindle Blues are in the deck. These are a great source of opting, and this is something that you want to set up on turn 1. If your opponent's going first and you're going second, if you can find these cards either in your hand, or if you can find them off of the top of the deck so that you can draw into them on turn 1, this is a fantastic card to find. The blues can be played for 2 opt counters and can be buffed up like crazy to actually allow you to opt via this card. So it is still good enough to play. Don't hate on this card too terribly much. They are good enough to play. It's why they're in the deck. This deck has performed admirably, and trust me on these picks. Okay, 2 blue Foreboding Bolts are in the deck as well. Keep in mind, this is guaranteed opt. So opt 1 always. Doesn't matter if you deal the damage or not. It is a blue block 3 guaranteed opt. You can literally crack this out on turn 0 so that you can send the 3 damage on Waning Moon alongside of it for 4 damage after blocking most of your hand. Like, you can keep this in a blue and then send that exact play off of like Talismanic Lens Pop. So you can block 6, send 4, and Talismanic Lens Pop and set up your turn if that's something that you would like to do. In a pinch, this also acts as like a damage dealing or a game winning spell when you only have like 1 opt counter left. We only play Whisper of the Oracle Blues. We do play 2 of them. There's the other one. We play 2 Whisper of the Oracle Blues. This card is fantastic, but oftentimes this is a blocking or a pitching card. I mean, it blocks for 3, it opts 2, it goes again. On turn 0, if you see this off the top of the deck, you leave it most of the time so you can draw into it, play it, and do something else after it, and you always have Waning Moon active on your first real turn of the game. But we're not going to commit to running yellows and reds. You don't need the opt counters. This deck can opt for days. You don't need it. Okay, speaking of you don't need it, I thought you might need it because Stormstriders was, nixed from the format. So I put 2 Gaze the Ages in instead of 2 Aether Twinings, I think it was. Arcane Twinings, we'll look at here in a bit. And I took those out and I put 2 Gazes in. And then I realized I don't use this card. So it's still in the deck. I have 1 copy and I have 1 Arcane Twining in the deck. And this one may just get cut as well. There are some tricks you can do with it, but honestly, like, I don't know. There have been like maybe 1 or 2 games where I have kept this as the only card in my hand onto my turn after blocking with the rest or sending the rest, and then I use it for opt 2 to make sure I have counters. So it does provide you some amount of utility there, but I mean, it's pretty close. So this is a possible cut for later. Eye of Ophidia is in there because it allows us to opt. It's just really good. This card's really good. If you don't have Eye of Ophidia, just run Gaze the Ages. It's like fine. It's really fine. It's not a big deal. But it's a great card in the deck. So if you have it, splash it in. And then finally, we do run 2 red, yellows, Cinderings. There they are. 2 reds, 2 yellows. Cindering Foresight is one of the heart and souls of this deck. It is part of the reason that this deck can go the way it does. Red Cindering in your opening hand is just like the best feeling. Opting 3, giving you that +1, possibly setting up surge effects, but also just stacking with all the other buffs that we can do in this deck means that the card just fits. It just sings. It's exactly what you want. And the yellow is great as well. We don't play the blues because it's a block 2 blue that only opts you 1, and we don't need 1 counter. But we do often need 3 or 2 counters to set us to that 3 or 4 breakpoint for counter ranges. So the blues are not worth it. Don't run them. The reds and the yellows are. Now, moving on to damage dealing spells, and I'm just going to start with the big one. There's a reason that this card is so freaking good in this deck. And the reds aren't even the best one, which is hilarious, but we'll look at them anyway. Emeritus Scolding on your opponent's turn is how we deal our biggest damage because it buffs itself, and then you can apply buffs via other cards, which we'll talk about here in a bit. But this can do some crazy, crazy things just on the face of itself. Like you can play Emeritus Scolding, pitching a blue, like on your opponent's turn, dropping the counters and such, and then crack your old knocker to get the other resource. So off of 2 cards, as long as you have the counters, you can send 6 + 3 is 9 total damage off of 2 cards. You do have to have the counters for the reds, but here's the best part. The yellows. Yellow Emeritus Scolding is such an insane card. It has been such an insane card for the past, 400 games that I've included it in the deck. Like, it's crazy how good this card is. Remember, we live with 3 counters on the board at any given time. All you have to do to access all 3 is pay 1 for the boots. Cracking the boots gives you that 1 counter. Cracking the Talismanic Lens for free gives you the other. That leaves you with 2 resources. So at any point, you can just throw Emeritus Scolding for 5. But of course, that's not only what you want to do. You'd also like to be able to, throw a Waning Moon after this. But this is very well positioned. This card's insane. It is so good in this deck. And it's so balanced too, because like they feel like crap when you have to play them on your own turn, but they feel so good when you play them on your opponent's turn. And then the blues are just above rate. It's a blue block 3 that deals 4 damage. It's great. Okay. Other damage dealing spells, Sonic Boom. These are the other big combo pieces. Opting in this deck, and there are some versions of this list where you can go in and you can opt away other cards and really set up like this crazy combo. You would need more Cinderings and more like other setup type pieces. And it is a little slower. And in this format, I don't think you can do that anymore with the Sonic Booms and all that stuff without Stormstriders. But this card, without all that setup, even just with a little bit that we have, and it's already enough, is very powerful. This is one of the best cards in your deck, and you want to build around it. But it is sometimes a card you also just block with. So this is really key and contingent that you have sculpted the top of the deck around this card. Otherwise, it's just a 2 for 3 that your opponent can really stop fairly easily. Okay, continuing, I'll just cut some more. There are other damage dealing spells we'll talk about in a little bit, but on to perhaps some of the best cards in the deck. Absorb and Aether Reds and Absorb and Aether Yellows. We don't play the blues because the blues are a bait. Why are the blues a bait? Because the blue is the one that goes above rate the least, but the red is a 1 for 4, and technically it's 6 total value, because you're always going to be, well, not always. If you can, you always want to be using the buff effect on the damage dealing side of things. It blocks for 4, it stops breakpoints. It sets up your, like Emeritus Scolding plays, or one of the cards we're about to talk here about in a bit. It sets up all your 0 for 3s. It is an incredible, incredible piece. It is a 1 for 6. If you think about it that way, it makes total sense, right? And it enables even more. The yellows are a 1 for 5, and they also pitch, which is great. So if you ever get kind of mucked up with a bunch of these in hand, you can pitch away the yellows to pay for your actual spells, and you can get out of a bind. And we'll talk about ratios. Ratios are super important to understand with this deck, and the yellows help. Blues, we don't want to play them. They're a 1 for 4. Doesn't quite do enough. I'm not a big fan. Blocking 2 and paying for it is just not good enough. Okay, now we continue on. We have Will of Arcana. If you don't have this card, you can, I don't know, just swap it for any blue, really. It's fine. It's one of those cards that just makes the deck go even bigger than before. This list can be pared down to relative cheapness, because like wizard cards are pretty cheap, but I have, obviously built this list to beat just about everybody in the meta. So Will of Arcana is the key piece here. These are the rest of like the blues that just build out. We have 2 Aether Arcs. These are fantastic on turn 0 or on like key turns where you had to block with a lot of cards. You can get rid of this. If your opponent's tapped out, you can send this. You get a Ponder token off the back end. We have 2 Photon Splicings. They are not really ever used for damage dealing. They are really more focused on being able to discard to amp. And the same thing for the 1 Arcane Twining that I was mentioning earlier. It's just there to amp 1. And finally, we come to the 0 for 3s. And this is where a lot of people kind of did the head scratch when I made the video about this deck list, and then the big guide. By the way, you should check out the guide. It's 3 hours of content just talking about basically this exact list. This list did not change. And the 0 for 3s function very importantly to match with some of these cards. First of all, I got the idea from all the way back in the day when I was playing Emperor, and you would oftentimes block out with your hand, and then you'd send a 0 for 3 at low life totals, and they would have to like give you so much tempo back just because you sent a 0 for 3 that was going to kill them if they didn't. But other things that you can do with these 0 for 3s, if you pitch a blue, you can go Absorb an Aether, and then you can go Overflow the Aether Well and have resources left over, even if it doesn't surge. But even better than that, if you crack Old Knocker, you can go Old Knocker for a resource, absorb an Aether with that resource, overflow the Aether Well when your opponent has like shields down and they're not going to block it, get 2 resources, and you can send the Waning Moon for 3. So this represents blocking for 5, 4 with this, 1 with this prior, cracking for the resource, blocking for 5, sending 8. That's very good off of like what is essentially 2 cards, 2 cards and an equipment. That's quite good, okay? And so all of the 0 for 3s play into that. We only have 4, but we have 2 red Overflow the Aether Wells, 2 red Prognosticates. These do a similar thing. They don't let you Waning Moon after the fact for free resources because the Overflow gives you those resources, but these let you opt 1, and we chuck them in there because why not? And then finally, we have some extender pieces to the deck. These are Kindles. These cards are insane. Okay, this is another combo that you can do within Prognosticate and Overflow the Aether Well. Because if you're opting and you're finding on your opponent's turn, oh, I've got like the exact resources to send like Emeritus plus Waning Moon, if you have a Kindle tucked in there, you can send all of that Kindle at the end before you deal damage with Emeritus, stack the amp 1 onto Emeritus, draw into a 0 for 3, and then with a 1-card hand after your opponent's tapped out and dealt with the damage that you dealt on their turn, send a 0 for 3 to ask for another card and more tempo back. So it's what we talked about with the Emperor, except now it's, even better because this deck is better than Emperor. The other thing you can do is you can like block with a card, you can pitch a blue to absorb, you can have like Kindle in your hand, and you've blocked 4, you've amped 2, you can banish an Emeritus Scolding with those 2 floating that you still have, right? And you can Kindle after this is the only card in your hand. Kindle away, or play Kindle, draw into a blue off the top, and have resources to both send Waning Moon and also send Metacarpus Node. That line looks like this. I'll just show you at this point because, you know, we're doing it live. It's the first day of school. We're laid back. We're casual. So I will literally just do that for you here. We'll go ahead and get our blue. I'll even do it with, we'll do it with the Kindle and Emeritus Scolding. We'll grab an Emeritus, which is somewhere in here. We'll do it with yellow. Why not? All right, so it would look like this. We don't even need this prog. Just get rid of that. So with this type of hand, as you see here, we can pitch to play Absorb for 4, and then we can banish with 3 counters there. Then we can play Kindle to draw any blue whatsoever. We have 2 resources still left over on Arcane Twining's pitch. We can play this for 5, 7, and then 8 with the Kindle, and then pitch this to Waning Moon for an additional 3. So that's pretty solid on 4 cards, right? The other thing that I was explaining that we can do here is if we have this off the top of the deck, and you can even do this off of like, what would be the best? Yeah, this is a fine configuration, really. It doesn't really matter. Heck, let's say we blocked for 3. Blocked for 3 with this Arcane Twining. We can crack Old Knocker. We even blocked for 4. Crack Old Knocker. Next thing, Absorb for 4. Banish, Kindle, draw Prog, throw the Emeritus Scolding. We're not Waning Mooning on this turn. Instead, we're doing 5, 6, 7, 8, but we blocked for an additional 4 on this turn. So 3, 4, 8. We blocked for 8. We sent 8. So that's 16 value. And then we drew into this. So then we throw an extra 3 at our opponent. So the power of Kindle is quite obvious once you start playing with it and you understand the play lines. The deck really goes. Now, as far as the overall sideboard is concerned, this is where things get a little bit more open. Depends on what you expect in your local meta, because Blitz is local. Here's what I would recommend. For my own meta, I think that there's a good number of Illusionists, and Illusionist, one of the worst matchups for this deck. So we run 2 Burn Bears. We run 2 Fjendahl's Fighting Spirits. And we run 1 Nourishing Emptiness. By the way, for every other matchup that's not like something that's like Illusionist, basically, which I'm fully teched out for at this point, we will run Nourishing and Scour, because this deck is 38 cards, and so we will slot in these 2 cards almost every time. Now, Nourishing is interesting because into a lot of decks in this format that have 3 block on armor, it's never going to get value. Into some decks, it's always going to get value, so you want to find it because they're never going to block with equipment, or their Arcane Barrier 3 comes in like 3 pieces of Null Rune, which means that they are left with like 1, 2 blocking equipment, so you're always really getting value with this because they'll always side out their D-Reacts, which is the right choice. They should side out D-Reacts versus us because we're only playing 1. And then this is just an extra blue because we want the ratios to be 18 blues. So this is what you normally side in. But this is our Pauper suite. And then that flex slot I actually took out, and now I'm playing an extra copy of Blanche. So I'm running, what is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 Paupers that I get to slot in, and it works okay. It's still a hard matchup and it's still unfavored, but this is like how you tech out to beat it. You can also splash in the Burn Bears into any matchup that you want to send big damage at. You can go Sonic Boom into Burn Bear pretty regularly. And so I do play those into other matchups. And then finally, we have Double Scour into anyone that's building up like Rune Chance, like Vinset. This is your key in Vinset. You can just win the game on the spot if they play poorly and you play Scour at the right time. Scour does cost you 0 counters to take off, and so you can, banish it for 0 counters. Even when you have 0 counters, you can just banish this off of the Blaze ability. It's incredible. This card's great, and it's a fantastic inclusion. If you are playing in any meta that has like embodiments or tokens of any kind, or specifically Rune Chance, this is a key card to have in that as well. And then finally, let's see, what else do we need to talk about with the sideboarding? I don't think there's really any other things to discuss. Oh, yes, there is. If you're playing into the Wizard Mirror with this deck, I will definitely side these 3 cards in. these 3 cards and these 2 cards come in, and especially now that I have Blanche in here, 4 7 power and 6 power physical attacks will come in place of the absorbs, and like I'll swap out like 1 random red or something like that, so that I can bring in big attacks. And that is a key, very powerful piece in a mirror matchup, so that if you want to get the edge, you're forcing your opponent to make blocks and try to deal damage to you, and sometimes they just can't do both, and it is very successful. This is a very successful way to play out the mirror match. That's the deck. That's it. Now, there's way more to it than just what I explained to you in this, 25 minutes or so. There's a lot to this deck, and trust me, I've put the time, blood, sweat, tears, and effort, all of it into it. So if you want more info about how to take this deck to the next level, please check out the guide that I posted down below. It's 3 hours of gameplay of me talking about every single card, diving deep and telling you combo lines. It's everything. So if you want that info, check the link down below. But I wanted to make this because it's skirmish season. And you know what? If you're going to play something, you might as well have a blast blazing people out of nowhere. And that's what you can do with this deck. So if you like this sort of stuff, let me know in a comment below and make the number go to the other number. As always, thanks for watching.